The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
It is Saturday, February 7th, 2026, and you are listening to The Neural Right, your daily dose of common sense in a crazy world. I'm Will Sterling, coming to you from the barn in Maine, where the wood stove is working overtime to keep the winter at bay, and joining me in a suit that I'm convinced was tailored by Dostoevsky himself is Walter Blackwood. Walter, we've got a solid show today. A lot of patterns are finally becoming visible to the naked eye, aren't they? They are, Will. Roughly speaking, the fog of the last decade is lifting, and what it reveals is, well, it's a landscape of wreckage, but also a landscape of opportunity. It's a busy day for anyone who cares about the architecture of reality. It's no joke, man. We're seeing the institutional lies of the postmodern neo-Marxist types just crumbling. And I suppose we should start with the most obvious example, the biological reality in the boxing ring, right? For 18 months, we were told by the experts and the Olympic committees that raising questions about Imam Khalif was a form of heresy. But according to reports coming out of Leah Queep and National Review in the last 48 hours, the silence has finally been broken. Khalif has confirmed the existence of the SRY gene, the Y chromosome marker, and admitted to using hormone treatments to suppress male-level testosterone for competitions. What is going on here? Well, it's the devouring mother archetype in action, Will. The desire to be so inclusive that you end up destroying the very categories that allow for fair play and female safety. Khalif told the French press that she lowered her testosterone to 0 for the Dakar tournament, which is a tacit admission that the natural state was a level that was totally incompatible with women's sports. But the ideology required the lie, and so the lie was maintained at the expense of every woman Khalif stepped into the ring with. It's bloody pathological. It literally is. And why are they doing this? Because the ruling class thinks they can rewrite the laws of nature if they just use enough HR-approved language. They hate you, Walter. They hate the listener because the listener knows, everyone knows, that men and women are different, but they want to punish you for noticing. Exactly. It's an assault on the truth itself. And when the truth is suppressed, you get the kind of chaos we saw in Paris. But now that the admission is out, what happens to the gold medal? What happens to the warrior narrative? It's no joke when the spirit of the sport has been polluted by this need to prioritize a radical identity narrative over the biological reality of the individual. Right. Well, if we're talking about restoring reality, we have to look at the Pentagon, or as I like to call it, the newly rebranded Department of War. Secretary Pete Hegseth is literally cutting the cord with Harvard. No more military fellowships, no more graduate programs for officers at Ivy League schools. Hegseth says he's done sending our future commanders to be brainwashed by people who hate America. Well, that's a start. The warrior ethos is antithetical to the radical ideologies of the Ivy League. You see, if you spend your time at Harvard learning that the United States is a systemic engine of oppression, how can you lead men into battle to defend it? It's a contradiction that would eventually lead to the collapse of the military hierarchy.
Literally, Hegseth stood at the Washington Monument on Friday and said, "Harvard is woke, the War Department is not." Think about the frame. He's rebranding the entire culture of the military back to the arsenal of freedom. It's a return to the warrior class over the credentialed class.
Exactly. And it's about competence, Will.
Right.
It's the same reason we're seeing this massive federal crackdown on the trucking industry. They're purging thousands of drivers who don't meet English proficiency and shutting down these CDL mills that just sell licenses. People might say it's unfair, but if you can't read a sign that says toxic gas or weight limit, you shouldn't be piloting 80,000 pounds of steel through a residential neighborhood. It's a basic requirement of the social contract that if you participate in high-stakes infrastructure, you meet a minimum standard of competence. Roughly speaking, we're tired of the second disaster caused by bureaucratic incompetence.
Exactly. It's the return of standards. But speaking of standards, Walter, you saw what's happening in Michigan and Alabama with these election integrity bills. This is your wheelhouse. The WIS loophole is finally being closed, isn't it?
It is, and it's a crucial development for the sovereignty of the citizen. Right, Michigan passed a bill with a 97-6 vote, which is an incredible consensus, to ban foreign dark money from ballot initiatives, specifically targeting billionaires like Hans-Jörg Wyss, who's dumped $34 million into Michigan alone since 2017.
Right?
Right. Why is a Swiss national allowed to buy the constitution of a Midwestern state? It's an affront to the very idea of a republic. If the individual citizen's vote is to have any meaning, it can't be drowned out by the deep pockets of the globalist elite. It's the architecture of honesty. If you're not part of the polity, you have no business tinkering with the machinery. But the hypocrisy is what really gets me, Will. The way these politicians claim to be protecting democracy while they facilitate its subversion. It's bloody dishonest.
Well, talk about hypocrisy. You have Senator John Ossoff in Georgia today holding a rally for our republic. He's the guy screaming that the SAVE Act, which just requires you to be a citizen to vote, is Jim Crow 2.0. He says photo IDs are barriers to the marginalized. Okay, fine, but guess what you need to get into his rally in Atlanta?
Oh, I can guess.
Literally, a government-issued photo ID and airport-style security. You can't even get in the door to hear him talk about how IDs are racist without showing your ID to a guy with a clipboard. What is going on here? They want a secure border around their pep rallies, but a porous border for our elections. They think you're too stupid to notice.
It's the rules for the archetype. Right. They demand the security of the hierarchy for themselves while they push the chaos of the equity narrative onto everyone else. It's a way of saying, I am above the rules I advocate for. And the public is starting to see the man behind the curtain.
Right. Well, if people are looking for a way out of that chaos, the Maha movement is where it's at. Make America healthy again. Walter, have you seen the Mike Tyson ad for the Super Bowl? It's Tyson and RFK Jr. telling people to eat real food. It's literally targeting seed oils and artificial dyes in school lunches.
It's a restoration of the physical temple. Well, roughly speaking, if you poison the population with ultra-processed sludge, you create a dependent and weakened populace. A healthy person is a sovereign person, someone who can think for themselves and take responsibility for their life.
Right?
Tyson is the perfect messenger for this because he's someone who has mastered the internal hierarchy. He knows what it's like to be at the bottom of the pit and fight his way back to competence. But I do have concerns about the new Trump RX portal.
Oh?
Well, it's good to bypass the middlemen, like the pharmacy benefit managers. We have to be careful about the centralization of power. If the state becomes the primary portal for your medicine, the state gains another lever of control over your life. It's a double-edged sword, man.
I mean, literally. But the PBMs are already a cartel. Trump RX is just using the most favored nation strategy to stop us from being the world's piggy bank for pharma. I'll take a government portal over a PBM shadow cabinet any day.
I suppose. If it's a tool for transparency rather than a mandate for control, then it's a solid step forward.
It's a huge step, but we have to take a quick second to thank the guy who makes this entire independent platform possible.
Yes, before we get back to the analysis, let's deal with the hard reality. Real independence isn't free. This entire network, from this show to our flagship, The Neural Daily, exists because one man, Eric Christensen, decided to build it himself. He didn't ask for a government grant. He invested his own capital and technical expertise to architect a media platform that respects your intelligence. If you value that kind of meritocratic building, back it up. And don't limit yourself to just the politics. Get the full strategic picture by subscribing to the Neural Daily and the rest of the network. Support the builder, and you support the mission. Support the builder, literally. Because the legacy media will never tell you the truth about the stories we're covering. Walter, you've been looking at this pushback in Harlem and Toronto. This is about the return of the practical, isn't it?
It is, and it starts with the children. You had a town hall in Harlem where 5 to 11-year-olds were asking the NYPD commissioner real questions, not the questions the activists wanted them to ask, but things like, how do you deal with criminals who refuse to drop their weapons?
Right?
Children are remarkably good at seeing through the postmodern fog. They know that if there is a predator in the neighborhood, the solution isn't a land acknowledgement or a sensitivity seminar. It's a competent adult with the authority to protect them. It's the same in Toronto. The city is trying to rename Dundas Square to Sankofa Square at a cost of millions of dollars, and the public is essentially saying, fix the subways and leave the signs alone.
I mean, literally, they want to spend $6 million on a word that has zero connection to Canadian history while people can't afford rent. Why are they doing this? Because they'd rather be virtuous in the symbolic realm than useful in the real world. It's a dereliction of duty.
Exactly. It's the rejection of the symbolic over the practical. But that brings us to the most important development of the weekend, the collapse of the elite's immunity. We're talking about the Benghazi arrest and the Epstein files.
This is the big one, Walter, the main event.
It's a restoration of the moral order that I honestly wasn't sure I would see in my lifetime, Will. Friday, February 6th, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the arrest of Zubair al-Bakush, a key participant in the 2012 terrorist attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi. Right. He landed at Andrews Air Force Base at 3 a.m. following an extradition that has been years in the making. For nearly a decade and a half, the families of Ambassador Chris Stevens, Sean Smith, Tyrone Woods, and Glenn Doherty were told that justice was, well, it was a complicated geopolitical matter. But Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel are saying no. They are saying that the passage of time does not grant immunity to those who murder Americans. It's a rejection of the globalist shrug. It's an 8-count indictment unsealed in D.C. for murder and conspiracy. It's no joke. This is what happens when you have a Department of War that actually views itself as the protector of the citizenry rather than an instrument of elite diplomacy. But that's just the first layer of the onion, Will, because at the same time we are seeing justice for Benghazi, we are seeing the literal destruction of the protected class narrative with the release of the Epstein files.
Right? Millions of pages.
Under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the DOJ has begun the process of unsealing the millions of pages of private correspondence that have been shielded from the public for years. And the fallout is already starting. We are seeing resignations and frantic denials across the global hierarchy, from the financial world to the academic and political halls of power.
Literally, I mean, I saw some of the early drops, the emails where these elites talk about favors and logistics in the most chillingly casual way possible. It's the ruling class's version of a thank you note for their time at the mansion. Why were they doing this? Because they thought they were a different species. They thought they were the philosopher kings who didn't have to obey the same moral laws as the normies in Maine or Harlem.
It's the tyrannical king archetype in its final stage of decay, Will, when the leaders of a society begin to prey upon the youth, the most vulnerable. You're looking at a culture that has completely lost its connection to the divine or even the basic human good. It's demonic, roughly speaking, and the fact that it was allowed to persist for so long because these people were too important to investigate, it's a stain on the social contract.
Right.
But the release of these files, it's like lancing an abscess. It's going to be bloody and it's going to be painful. You see, if we find out that our institutions
our media, our universities, our government were compromised by this network of influence and perversion, then we have to face the fact that our entire meritocracy was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crisis of faith for the entire Western world, but you can't build anything new on a foundation of rot. You have to clear it all away first, and the DOJ, specifically Jeanine Pirro and Bondi, are the ones holding the shovel right now. The untouchables are finally feeling the cold hand of the law on their shoulder.
I mean, it's about time. They thought the SAVE Act was Jim Crow, but they had no problem with a guy who was saving lists of politicians to blackmail. They hate you because you represent the standard of decency that they spent 40 years destroying.
Exactly. It's the resentment of the Cain archetype towards the Abel archetype. They despise the common man because the common man still believes in a world where things like truth and honor exist, whereas they have traded their souls for a seat at a table that was built on suffering.
Right.
When I think about the courage of the survivors and the years they were silenced by the ruling class, it's enough to make you lose your breath. But today, February 7th, 2026, it feels like the momentum has finally shifted. The admissions from the boxing ring, the military cutting ties with the ideological factories, and now the books being opened on the most corrupt network in history.
Uh-huh.
It's a restoration of the architecture of reality, roughly speaking. And even though it's a heavy day, it's a beautiful day because the truth is finally being spoken aloud. It's no joke, man. The truth is a dragon and it's finally out of its cage.
I love it. The truth is a dragon and it's got a very long memory. We're going to be tracking every single one of those Epstein emails and every development in the Benghazi trial as they happen, because that's what we do here. We read the news so you don't have to get gaslit by the people who probably have their names in those files.
Exactly. Stay sovereign. Take responsibility for your own room and your own health. And remember that the individual is the ultimate barrier against the chaos.
Literally. Go out there, get a real steak, Walter's favorite, and keep your eyes on the truth. This is Will Sterling and Walter Blackwood, and you've been listening to The Neural Right, your daily dose of common sense in a crazy world. We'll see you Monday.
I mean, really, what is going on here?
It's the end of